Yo, what is going on, guys? The Shooting Star Sheriff is here, and I am here talking about, yes, I can't believe I'm actually getting to talk about this again. I'm talking about more Cardfight Vanguard. I did a video, I think last week, just talking about the Vanguard Zero mobile game that was coming out. So I kind of wanted to introduce, and I was talking a little bit about more like how certain decks play. Just kind of like just a little gloss overview, but I kind of wanted to talk about, because I do know the game a little bit, from playing the TCG for so long. I probably have a good idea what the first four like clans that you'll probably be able to play when Vanguard Zero does drop. So it's probably going to be, the Q4 set for the most part, which I will get into that in this video. So I'm going to talk about the four different clans in this video that you'll probably be able to play like when Vanguard Zero does drop. So if you guys are definitely pumped to be hearing this, especially if you are excited for Vanguard Zero, definitely go ahead, show the video the love in the ways that you know to show it love, because you hear it a billion times everywhere else. Just to jump like into this. So for you guys that don't know, Vanguard Zero is a mobile game that is coming out. It is based off of a real card game called Cardfight Vanguard, which is an actual TCG, which I actually do play. I do play from time to time. Well, I play pretty casually. But they're getting a mobile game, just kind of like akin to Duel Links with Yu-Gi-Oh. But the coolest thing is you're going to be able to play other people online. It's going to be a more simplified version of Vanguard, which Vanguard's already pretty simple, but it's going to be even simpler. So I kind of wanted to show you guys probably the four actual like probably big decks that they're going to release. So I'm here on the Cardfight Wiki, and I am here looking at the four clans that they're probably going to introduced to the game first. And it's kind of funny because they're released by it's definitely going to be the first four clans that you're probably introduced to in the series, which is going to be Royal Paladin, Kagero, Kagero, Nova Grappler, and Oracle Think Tank, which these are played by the main squad or the main team in the Cardfight Vanguard anime, which you don't have to watch it if you don't want to, but it's just it's just nice. It's a nice thing if you want to learn kind of a little bit more about how the decks play. But I'm going to actually talk about each clan. So the first clan I'm going to talk about is Royal Paladin. Royal Paladin is the deck that I actually play, so I can speak the most to it. So Royal Paladin is it's pretty much a very entry level deck, where like the whole theme of it is, as you guys can see, the Royal Paladin is a clan from the United Sanctuary Nation, and it is one of the first two clans in the game. The clan is themed around knights, dragons, wizards, animals, among others, focused around several folk. I can't speak today. It's like 10 o'clock in the morning. I just woke up. Folk tales like Arthurian legends. It is the first regular army of the Holy Nation. Certain clans belong to certain nations, but I'm not going to get too deep into that because that's more of like the lore and stuff of Vanguard, which if you want like a lore video, let me know in the comment section. I don't mind talking about Vanguard lore. It's like one of my favorite parts of the game is just the lore. So I'm going to talk about the trial deck. No, I want to talk about, so as I said in my previous video, Royal Paladin is definitely it's a deck where its play style is about you're calling cards from your deck to the field to build up your numbers in order to, it lets you have like hand advantage, so you don't have to use cards from your hand. You basically call cards from the deck, which preserves your hand, and you can draw cards, you can superior call cards, which that's pretty much like the strongest thing you can probably do in the game, is be able to superior call cards, which is really, really good. Basically, like it says here, Royal Paladins are a well-rounded clan that focuses on having a field of powerful rear guards. They can quickly amass a full field of rear guards, while at the same time mitigating the loss of hand advantage through drawing cards when calling rear guards or superior calling specific cards from the deck or soul. Their units reward players for having many or specific rear guards present on the field, usually in the form of increased power. So I'm going to kind of talk about like one of the key strategies for Royal Paladin, especially with the new reboot stuff. It's actually really easy to talk about this. So I'm going to bring out Blaster Blado. And where are you? King of Knights Alfred. Because these two cards work hand in hand with each other. So looking at it's loading. So looking at Blaster Blade, the original, like, belongs to the main character. He has an ability, which I'm gonna go ahead and preface this now. The units might have different abilities, or their abilities might be altered a little bit for the simplified version of Vanguard 0 when it drops, okay? Just gonna say that right now before we get too deep into this. But I just kind of want you guys to have an idea of how the deck will play. So, I don't know why I said it like that, but he has the ability where if you have 4 or more rear guards, he gets a critical, which a critical means how many points of damage the unit will do. So having this thing gain an extra point of damage if the attack hits is very nice. Blaster Blade also has the ability where he can retire a unit on the opponent's field, and basically retire means that if there's like you have a card on the board that your opponent has that's kind of a problem, Blaster Blade can be like, oh, I'm gonna get rid of that card, and then it just immediately leaves the field, which is a really good control. And then the boss monster, or let's say, boss unit or boss monster, is this glorious King of Knights Alfred, which basically he says you can search your deck up to a Blaster Blade for paying the cost, which would be a counterblast. You can call a Blaster Blade from your deck, and then Blaster Blade, and then this unit gains 10,000 power. So like those two units work in tandem with each other. So that's the kind of that's like a general gist of just how Royal Paladin works. It's all about building up that board and getting certain units on the board to get those power buffs and power bonuses, while you're like drawing cards, maintaining hand advantage, and stuff like that. So if you're really into that type of play style, I definitely think Royal Paladin will definitely be a very good clan for you. It's a very nice entry level clan, so it's, even if it's not your favorite clan, it teaches you how to play the game the best, I would say. So now that's gonna move on to the rivals deck, which is going to be Kagero, which Kagero is basically, I'm gonna put it for, it's very reaction based. It's a very reaction based deck. Kagero's play style revolves around retiring the opponent's rear guards. Retiring just means that it just, you would activate an ability, you would choose a unit, and then that unit would leave the field on your opponent's side. So it's all about control. It's all about controlling what your opponent has on the board and getting rid of it to keep your advantage going. Which is really cool because this clan comes from the Dragon Nation. So if you want to look at some of their more notable cards, I know the grade 3s a lot better than I know the other ones. I'm gonna just find some of the good ones. So I'll show like a grade 2 and a grade 3 just so you guys can like get a good idea. I got all these tabs popping up, guys. All these tabs. So you have cards like, you have Dragon Knight Nahalem, which they're all like dragons and dragon knights in this clan. So if you like that theme, you might really like this. Where basically this guy says you can choose an opponent's rear guard in the back row and retire it. And then for retiring units, they gain power. So he gains like 5,000 power. So he hits harder when you get rid of your opponent's stuff. And then you have the infamous, but he's not infamous because he hasn't done anything bad. Well, we're not talking about like lore. We're talking about Dragonic Overlord, the famous Dragonic Overlord, which he has 2 different arts. This is just one of them. What's really cool is this guy can get 10,000 power just for soul blasting 1 card. So he just becomes a beat stick. And then once per turn, if his attack hits the Vanguard, well, if his attack hits anything, not just the Vanguard, but if it just hits, You can counterblast a card, which it's paying a cost, which I won't get too deep into that right now. And you discard cards from your hand. You get to stand up. This guy gets basically he gets to attack again because every unit is only allowed one attack. So the coolest thing about this guy is this guy lets you attack more than once. So if you like super aggro, like getting rid of all the opponent's resources and types and things like that, which is the opposite of Royal Paladin, which is like building up a field. This is like building your numbers but getting rid of their numbers. If you very like that kind of like control type of play, I definitely think the Dragons of Kagero is going to fit you perfectly. So next, we're going to talk about Oracle Think Tank. Which the only reason I'm focusing on the V series, I didn't even get to say that. The only reason I'm focusing on the V series, which is their reboot, is because I feel like Zero might take more from the reboot because the reboot's the most popular thing. I don't know that 100%, but I feel like because the reboot is like new and it goes back to like the simpler version of the game, I feel like they'll more towards like gravitate towards that. Oracle Think Tank, it's a clan that has definitely more than one playstyle because they have more than one archetype in it. But I'm going to try and explain Oracle Think Tank the best way I can. Oracle Think Tank uses like mages and they use like fortune telling and stuff like that. So the way it works in like the deck is it's a defensive deck, especially in the TCG, because of their imaginary gift, which I'm not gonna get into. I'm gonna try and keep this simple as possible. Oracle Think Tank is a defensive deck. They basically they do deck manipulation, so which lets them like look at the top card of the deck, and then like you can choose whether you want to send that card to the top or the bottom. And the reason why that's important is because you have triggers in your deck in Vanguard, and these triggers, when you attack with your main unit, if you get a trigger, those triggers can definitely turn the tide of battle. So being able to look at the top card of your deck and being able to adjust your strategy depending on like what cards you're looking at before you actually do those drive checks is actually very powerful. Some cards will let you check top cards. I know back in the day, I don't know if they'll do this for Zero because I feel like in Zero that'd be just way too busted. There was other cards that they will let you check two cards from the top, and then you could like put them in whatever order you wanted, and then you could put like one at the top and one at the bottom. It was like crazy things like that. So it's a very like deck manipulation, and just kind of like you can also use it to kind of like outplay your opponent too, because you could have your opponent think that you're putting like a good card on top, so then they like, you can play mind games. So if you really like mind games, it's really good. I'm gonna try and find I want to try and find cards in English for you guys, because I don't want you guys to like not be able to I don't want you guys to be able to like not be able to read the cards. So I'm gonna find where is Imperial Daughter? Yeah, okay, there she is. So you're gonna have cards that are very like situational, because like they maintain hand advantage by like drawing a lot of cards. The way they'll play is like they'll have cards that are like very like utility based. So like this card right here, like Promise Daughter, she has an ability. She has two continuous abilities, meaning they're effects that happen no matter what. They're just active as soon as the card is on the board. It has, during the battle that it attacked the Vanguard, the number of cards in your hand is 4 or more. It just gets 6,000 power. So if you have 4 or more cards in hand, this gets power regardless. Which in that clan, you're going to be drawing lots of cards. And then it has an ability, Guardian. This card cannot be retired due to your opponent's card effects. So basically, like if you use like that blaster blade that I was talking about earlier in the video, where he can like choose a unit and be like, be gone thought. This thought cannot be gone. That's the best way I could put it. Oh, that was the best way I could put it. And then you have like their boss, which is the Imperial Daughter. The Imperial Daughter, which is funny because you would think this would be the daughter and this would be the mother, but no, this is still the daughter. Don't ask. Which basically, if you like ride a copy of this card on top of itself, it gets like a whole bunch of power. It gets a critical. It just allows you to really generate a lot more power from having all those cards in your hand, because you're drawing so many cards. You're probably gonna have duplicates of cards, right? So this basically benefits off of you having a duplicate of a card, and you can basically use this card again and then unlock like all of its abilities, where it lets you get a crazy amount of power, crazy amount of damage off to finish off the opponent, on top of you having superior defense. So if you really like to play like more strict, like if you really like more of like a strategic type of deck, if you want to play like, if you really want to play more into like Fate and like outplaying and like being able to do like fun, like cool things with your deck and playing mind games with your opponent, Oracle Think Tank is definitely something that you might want to look into. And then last but not least, we got my boys. This is also a second deck that I built for fun. And I just love this deck. Is Nova Grapplers. Nova Grappler is high risk, high reward. It's all about just attacking as much as possible, and it's pretty much like go for broke. It's definitely a go for broke type deck, which is very, very fun. Which they basically attack as much as possible. A lot of the units, like I remember when I said in the beginning that every unit is pretty much allowed one attack by the rules of the game, which is true. Now there are certain cards like the Dragonic Overlord, and there's a lot of cards in this clan that will allow a unit to stand back up to get an extra attack, which this is what the Nova Grapplers definitely they definitely like strive in. So I'm going to bring up some of, I know this deck a little bit, so I can bring up some good ones actually. I'm gonna bring up, is it Riser Custom? Riser Custom isn't like mine. Is it Transriser? I think it's Transriser. Transriser, and then I'm gonna bring out it's great. Oh, not Transriser. I need Burst Riser. That's what I wanted. Burst Riser, and then I'm gonna bring out is it Maximum Riser or is it? No. It's Perfect Riser. Perfect Riser. Okay, so basically you're gonna have cards like this guy, right? Which he basically says, when your main unit is your Vanguard. So when your main guy attacks, you can use his ability, which lets you stand this guy up. And then if you've been dealing a lot of damage, which that's literally what Nova Grapplers is about. It's about hitting as much as you possibly can. It gets power. Because you've been dealing damage, and then if that opponent has a certain amount of damage, he's going to get more power, so he's going to just get up and hit stronger the next time, which is really, really cool. And then you have their boss guy, which is Perfect Riser. Look how these guys look like Gundams. Have you noticed that these guys look like Gundams? I love that. I like Gundams. I build Gunpla. There's a few Gunpla. There's a few videos of me building Gunpla on the channel. Back in the early days when I just like was just doing, I was just doing my thing. I was just doing things I liked. But you got Perfect Riser, right? Basically what this guy does is, as long as you have the resources to do it, every time this guy attacks, you can take 2 of your units to stand them back up for another attack. So basically this guy helps you get off like almost like 4 to like, this guy almost guarantees you to get like 5 attacks a turn. So like, he's pretty cool. And then if he does hit, you basically get some resources back, so you can just do his ability easier the next time. Your turn comes around. And he also gives one of your units power in exchange for being able to for him to successfully land his attacks. Now, what's really cool about Nova Grapplers too is like, because they're all about push, 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 they call a lot of cards from your hand. So it's high risk, high reward, because like you want cards in your hand to maintain defense in the game. But this deck is like, no man, you got to play all these cards. You got to, you got to go for broke. You got to push to the win. You got to push it to the maximum limit. Which it's funny because there's a card called Maximum Riser in here. But yeah, it's all about, it's about just going full throttle, pushing to, I was about to say push it to the limit again. Just getting off as many attacks as possible and punishing the opponent for like not trying to get rid of, not trying to take care of you early. This is definitely a great deck if you got a person who's playing more of a defensive type of deck where they're trying to conserve cards. This deck is really cool because you can plot a whole bunch of cards on the field. They can attack more than once, and then they can just punish the opponent for keeping all those cards in hand and not calling them, because it lets them waste all their resources by punching them in the face, dog. Just punch them straight up with them robot fists, bro. Straight up punch them with them robot fists. But it's high risk, but the risk is that you're going to be playing so many cards from hand, so it keeps your defense low. So you want to try and keep their defense low by attacking them as much as possible. So I really like Nova Grappler. I just love it. I have an uncanny love for robots, okay? Battle bots and stuff like that, so like, it's cool. It's cool. Maybe it's because I like to play like Mega Man and like other things that were based off of robots and stuff, like Astro Boy and stuff. I don't know. Maybe that's why. Maybe that's why I like Nova Grappler. And I like Gundam. So like maybe that's why I like Nova Grappler, because they just remind me like the battle bot, like they just remind me so much of Gundams. They look like Gundam-esque. So I'm like, yeah, that's great. But that is really it, guys. I just wanted to talk about all the different clans and kind of what they do in a nutshell. If you definitely want to look more at this, you can definitely come to the Card Fight Wikia right up here. If you go to the main page, let me see if I can get the main page going. If you go to the main page, it basically will tell you about trial decks, start decks. And like I said in the beginning of the video, or like halfway through the video, the abilities on the cards can be slightly different, but the play styles will probably will more than likely stay the same. So definitely just give it a nice look at, and just kind of see what you might want to play, guys. Just see. Let me know if this was definitely very helpful for you. They're probably going to be some of the first 4 clans that they'll release into the game when the game does come, when the Vanguard 0 does drop, because they're based off of the 4 kind of central characters in the show. So they probably will drop like Royal Paladin and Kagero will definitely be first, following by OTT, Oracle Think Tank, which people just say OTT, and Nova Grapplers respectively. But anyway, guys, that's really it. Hopefully this was very helpful for you. Definitely, if you haven't, go check out the Vanguard 0 video that I did like a week ago or something at this point, and let me know what clan you might be interested in playing out of the 4 I have showed or talked to you about so far, and I will catch you guys later. Peace.